Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships, where today we're going to be doing an upgraded commando build video on the Oregon. It's the newest addition in terms of the American battleships and being an experimental battleship here at Tier 10. On Monday, I'll probably feature a compilation videos of the ship in battle. We've had some fun battles, but kind of like it'd be better to stitch some of the different battles together to show off different things of the ship because yeah, for that reason and another. So look for a highlight video coming next week. I'm going to go over Oregon today. We're going to talk about her modules, upgrades, consumables, armament, commander skills, this, that, and the other. And I'm also going to take a segment in here where I compare Oregon to Georgia. So those of you who have the Georgia can kind of wrap your minds around how Oregon plays different a little bit than Georgia. There's a few peculiarities there that are just a little bit different, and I'll simplify, and then I'll try to go through depth in a very concise manner. But first, I want to talk about Oregon. So what kind of battleship is Oregon? Oregon is a bit of an interesting boat because normally I would say, you know, Oregon should be like mid-range to brawling range. But with how the experimental ships future works, you know, in one sense that when you have lower hit points because of the fight or flight skill, we'll talk about that. You have like, you can get down, I think, up to like negative 23% dispersion. So you become quite accurate with these 6 457s, right? It's quite atrocious at range, right? But at the same time, I think Oregon's true strength lies in playing in mid-range, which is 12 to 15 kilometers, because that's also where you get access to the burst fire mode, and that is, you have to be 12.5 or under to work that. So she's a bit of a jack of all trades in that regard, and normally you can't say that about most battleships in the game, whether it's long range, mid-range, or brawling range. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about her armor scheme. Armor scheme, if you do have a Georgia, it's the exact same. If you don't have a Georgia, you know, let me just go over talking about the armor scheme. So it's a lot of 32 and 38 millimeter and a decent portion of 19. So your bow and stern, 32. Your side plating is 38. Your deck plating in the center of the ship is 38. And then when we're looking at the superstructure, that's one of the biggest weaknesses, I would say, of Georgia, Oregon, is that they both have this massive superstructure, which attracts a lot of attention. So fire prevention is pretty mandatory for Oregon, in my opinion. It's pretty normal to maybe after you've had a couple minutes of fighting that your superstructure is just completely black and burned out from like fires and a lot of HE shells fired in your direction. So it makes it a very sizable target because, I mean, it sticks up pretty far up out of the water. It's not like Libertad, Los Andes, or some other battleships in the game that don't have much of a superstructure. You know, a Zumo, right? Almost non-existent. So it attracts a lot of attention there. When we start stripping away her armor, you'll see that the Citadel is just at the waterline, just beneath waterline Citadel. It sticks up just a little bit there. So you have to be mindful when you go broadside because you don't have the best, you know, rudder shift time or turning circle radius. So do be mindful of that. You might be tempted at times to try to get that rear turret off, but sometimes you're going to have to like fight yourself on that and just say, no, let me just stay bow angled in for the time being. On your turrets, same as Georgia, you got 540 on the front, 305, 241, which wraps rounds into 360, and a 184 on the top, and the barbettes being 439. Okay, so now at this point, let me just talk through how Oregon is different than Georgia. And then I'll go into talking about modules, upgrades, armament, consumables, and the commander. So this is an experimental ship. You can see it has its own little designated icon. It's stating that it'll be removed from your account in update 14.7 unless Wargaming decides to keep it in the game for longer, which I think I could see Wargaming yoinking it and putting it back into the game just to make you have to regrind the ship again. They might not be that cheeky, but I could see them doing that. It's update 14.3 now as a recording of this video. But these experimental ship futures and then the burst fire modified shells is really where Oregon's primarily stands out different than Georgia. So I'm going to just talk about this. So fight or flight experimental ship future. Your ship's characteristics gradually improve as she loses hit points down to a minimum HP threshold. As you restore the hit points, these modifiers become less effective. So your ship may begin battle with a reduced amount of HP. Your ship does. I keep seeing it. It keeps throwing players off. Why does Mets? Why does Viasma? Why does Oregon? Why does your ship only starting off with like 29, 31,000 hit points, right? And it's because of the experimental ship future. So that is why. So just be mindful that, oh, it's experimental ship. That's why it's like that. But people who don't play the game very often keep missing out on the different updates and things happening in the game. So you can see this main battery reload time. You can get to negative 15%. And then that maximum main battery shell dispersion, negative 23%. So a bit spicy with these 6457s. Your limited stock shells, you have shells with special characteristics and limited in number. Once you reach the limit, they are replaced by typical modified shells of the alternative fire mode. Can only be used in the alternative fire mode. The other big difference, of course, is also the burst fire and modified shells. So what Wargaming did here is when you activate this, you lose 46.9% of your main battery firing range. So your reload time also goes up to 33.4 seconds, which isn't terrible compared to where we're at now, 23.8. And your interval between individual shots is 1.5, and you get 2 salvos off. So rather than 6, you get 12 out. And so these modified shells Wargaming's talking about here is these. So you can see when I click in and out of this how the AP shell changes. I mean, so does the high explosive as well. But what happens here is that you see the shell velocity goes up by 100 meters a second. We're down to 12.5 kilometer maximum range. Our maximum main battery shell dispersion is reduced from 180 to 140, or it's reduced down to 180, excuse me. Otherwise it would be up close to 300. And you get 72 of these shells. So don't be afraid to use them early on because you only are firing 6 at a time, or 12 when you in total. It does take a little bit to burn through them, if you will, compared to if you had a battleship with 9 main battery guns or 12 main battery guns. So definitely take advantage of it. Like, it's fun. So that's how the AP shells work. The high explosive shells, basically here, it's just that you see the your shell dispersion is reduced. That's the only difference here. And then after you've gone through all 72, you just go to your standard armor piercing, which you just see the only buff you're getting then is the maximum main battery shell dispersion, not also this velocity of the shells going up 100 meters a second. So to simplify the big differences between Georgia and Oregon, Oregon plays more around her main battery, where Georgia plays more around her secondary battery. The secondaries, their DPM I think is identical, but there's a difference here. So Georgia starts off with a little bit more secondary battery range. It's like 0.2, 0.3 kilometers more. But the big difference is that Georgia gets improved accuracy dispersion on her secondary guns, where Oregon does not. It's actually like Oregon has 140, it's underneath 140 meters horizontal dispersion worse than Georgia. Basically what that boils down to is that your hitting damage per minute, your hitting DPM is about 25,000, I think, worse than what you have on Georgia. So it doesn't mean that you should build full into secondaries on Oregon. I don't, outside of the 3rd slot on our upgrades. So that's a big difference there. Other differences would be like her airstrike. Oregon, you get 11 kilometers. Georgia, 10 kilometers. Oregon, 4,900 maximum bomb damage. Georgia, 4,200, I think it is. Your A defense is almost the same except for the damage by shell explosions. I think Georgia's 1610. Here you see 1680. Maneuverability is the same. Survivability should be the same, although there's something that in the game says that the rating is slightly different. That Oregon's different or better than Georgia, and I'm not entirely sure how. When it comes to that, concealment features are the same. When you talk about consumables, you have on Georgia, you get access to spotter plane. On Oregon, you don't. That's mainly because you just get a 23.5 kilometer range with Oregon's guns, where Georgia's 20 kilometer, but then you get the spotter plane on Georgia to kind of make up for that. So here, pretty one-dimensional that you have the fighter. Engine boost is the same. The other difference is the specialized repair teams. So here, it's a 60-second cooldown, where on Georgia, it's a 40-second cooldown. You get 6 heals, or I think you get maximum of 4 or 5 heals on Georgia. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then the HP per second is actually greater here in Oregon than it is on Georgia. I think Georgia's around 400 something. And then here on Oregon, you can get over almost close to 900, if you will. So that's the other key difference here between the two ships. So your heal potential is greater depending on how you look at it with Oregon. But Georgia has a 40-second cooldown, where here it's a 60-second cooldown. Other than that, I don't think there's much difference between the two ships. So let's go ahead and talk about the modules. So reload time, 23.8 seconds. I'm going to talk about this in terms of the synergy of this main battery build, because you can get pretty spicy when you build for main battery mod 3. You have fighter flight, and then you go into your commander. You take adrenaline rush, pretty mandatory in my opinion, for the experimental ships. So you have a very fast reload time. I think when you start off, you can get down to, it's around 20 seconds, maybe it's 19 second. So Oregon is a contender with Republic in terms of a tier 10 battleship having the fastest reload time. So you can catch people off guard a lot with their, when they go, they think after you fired, it's a battleship or a cruiser, they think they have time to go broadside to you and turn around and disengage. Well, Psych might not be able to do that, and then your burst fire helps you capitalize on that as well. So another reason why to build fully into the main battery. With Halsey's, he has an enhanced skill for gun feeder, so it's 9.5 second minimum shell type switching time. 180 degree turn time of 33.1. This is also with Halsey's grease the gears enhanced skill. Maximum HE shell damage 6,450. Maximum AP shell damage 15,750. That's the same on Georgia as well with these 457s. Hull, same as Georgia as well, 74,100. We take Charlie Kilo, bumping up to 77,850. Gunfire control system, 23.5. Can't build into taking the range out any further, which really isn't how the ship plays, so I'm kind of glad Wargaming took away the range auxiliary armaments or whatever. Not auxiliary armaments, whatever it's called for the range. So that's good to see. Your speed, 230,000 horsepower. You have 33 knots. With the Sierra Mike, you'll jump up to 34.7. And with your 15% engine boost, you'll be around 40 knots, I believe it is. So that's fantastic. And you can run down even tier 9, tier 8, tier 9, tier 10 destroyers in the game. That's really funny. In terms of her first slot, I've gone for the Damage Control Party Mod 1. Your standard action time on your Damage Control Party without this skill, or without a skill on Halsey, is 20 seconds. So we can get our DCP up to 30.8 seconds all said and done, which is like phenomenally good. So there's like, I have a clip of a submarine, he keeps trying to ping me, but like I'm just active, I have my Damage Control Party, and there's nothing you can do while I'm waiting for my next heal to come off cooldown time, which is 60 seconds. So it's almost like only like a 30-second gap. If you use your heal, then you use your DCP, then you're waiting 30 seconds, get your next heal off cooldown, roughly, but you can get this lower with a few things, and I'll talk about. So you end up making yourself a pretty tanky battleship, which I really like. Otherwise, I would say go for auxiliary armaments, but if you don't have the coal, because this is 12,750 with the 25% coupon, full price I think is 17,000. But if you really have the coal and you like Oregon, you should really take Damage Control Party Mod 1 in my opinion. You have pretty tanky guns. I think I've had one of my main batteries knocked out, and I think that was because it was a Satsuma I was fighting. but I've not been missing it at all. Second slot, you can see it's another special upgrade I'm running. I'm running the Engine Boost Mod 1, which adds plus 30% action time. So you get 2 and 34-second action time on your engine boost. So almost 4 minutes of engine boost, and you only get 3 of these. So in total, you get about 12 minutes of engine boost time in the game. And this is really helpful when you're pushing flanks. That's really how I've been playing Oregon a lot lately, and it's been working out incredibly good. So yeah, also 17,000 coal or 12,750, I think, with the negative 25% off coupon. Yes. Otherwise, if you don't have the coal, then go for Damage Control System Mod 1. This will reduce your to catch of firing, negative 5%, risk of flooding, negative 3%. The third slot, you could go for Main Battery Mod 2, or you could do Secondary Battery Mod 1. So right now, as we already talked about, I can pull it up here, we have a 33.1 second 180 degree turn time, which is pretty good. I quite like that. I feel most comfortable with battleships that play around 30-second 180 degree turn time. So with that being said, if 33 is a bit rough for you, certainly you can go for the Main Battery Mod 2. But because of how I've been playing the ship, I've been playing this mid-range, pushing, fighting. I've actually enjoyed the Secondary Battery Mod 1, also because of the fire chance if you do set a fire. Because since you're mainly firing high armor piercing, except high explosive and dealing with subs and DDs. So there was a game I had. It ended pretty quick. I pushed a flank. I pushed through a Smolensk and a Colbert, killing them both. But in the meanwhile, you know, I didn't really need a faster turret to traverse. And so that added like 14,000 more damage into my game because it ended so fast. So I've liked the Secondary Battery Mod 1 for myself personally, but you can try them both out and see what you think. I went a different path here on the fourth slot. Normally, you would do the Damage Control System Mod 2, which just reduces your fire extinguishing time by negative 15% and your flooding recovery time by negative 15%. Instead, I've gone for the Propulsion Mod 1. Time taken to reach full engine power when accelerating, negative 50%. Now, there's only a handful of battleships I run this on. Schlieffen would be one of those. And the reason why I felt comfortable in going for Propulsion over Damage Control System Mod 2 was, one, it's building into your damage control party that we get this 30.8 second action time out of, and we get a specialized repair team with a 60-second cooldown versus like an 80-second cooldown, and we're getting a stronger heal, right? 889 when we're running India Delta. I have really liked this. It's helped me avoid torpedoes in the game, because the other reason why I like taking Propulsion Mod 1 is also when I have an engine boost on the battleship typically. You know, or at Schlieffen, I take Propulsion because you have the fast damage control party, so your DCP is coming off cooldown really fast, so you can cycle out, you know, double fires and whatever. I really like this. I would say try it out if you're a skeptic. See what you think in comparing the two, but the increased agility to move and get out of the way of salvos coming in, like I had a Montana last week shooting me from 25 kilometers away. It's like, why? And so I was just able to like, and I had been slowed down more towards the stop, and I was able to like easily move and get out of the way and not take any damage. Fifth slot, it's the Concealment System Mod 1. This falls in line pretty well with having a battleship that plays more around her main battery. Also, in being a flank pusher. I moved up a whole side of a flank without being detected, and I wreaked chaos and havoc in the enemy spawn, and that's kind of really where like Georgia, Oregon shine when those moments happen. So the 13.3 Conceal helped me make that possible. If I wasn't running Conceal on my commander or here, I wouldn't have been able to make the play that I did that helped get our team the win. So this is a pretty obvious one to take here. These other two, don't worry about them. Sixth slot, they reduce you to only two options. One is the Main Battery Mod 3, which main battery reload time, negative 12%. Main battery traverse speed, it's a nerf. It's a 13% longer traverse time. Well worth it with the synergy you have in having faster reload time when we're talking about fighter flight, 12% reload faster here, burst fire, modified shells, adrenaline rush on our commander. These all have really synergize really well. So again, if you're not running adrenaline rush, you're not running main battery mod 3 on your experimental ships, I'd really highly recommend it, just because the ship's favoring you that much more and you get that much better out of your damage per minute in the game. I wouldn't mess with auxiliary armaments mod 2. This isn't a secondary battleship. It's not an AA battleship. It'll be rough dealing with tier 10 carriers, and it's definitely rough dealing with super carriers. I find the AA on Oregon does best against tier 8s, while it struggles pretty decently with tier 10 and super CVs. Armament wise, 6,450 damage, 43% chance of causing fire, so don't be afraid to use the high explosive every now and then if you're trying to set a fire. Especially use it, of course, if you're dealing with DDs and some Marines. There'll be a clip I probably show on Monday. If this is the day I'm going to do the highlight video on Oregon, where there's a Havarosk came running in. He was harassing our other DD, and I switched to high explosive, and then we double tapped him with the burst fire. So it works out really well, especially when you get a better dispersion, right? You take 114 off there. Armor piercing shells, 15,750 maximum damage. This is mainly what you're going to be firing because you have 457mm guns. You're arming, you overmatch up to, what is it, 32? Because this is almost like an 18-inch gun. It's like 17.9 or whatever, and that's why Yamato and Musashi are so good, because their 460s overmatched 32, if I get that correct number in my head. Depth charge airstrike, 11 kilometer range, 4,900 maximum bomb damage. It's great. It's been very helpful. I'm glad that it's 11 and not like nerfed or something. Then the burst fire modified shells, which I already talked about when we made the Georgia-Oregon comparison. But again, to go over here, in case you're using the time titles in the bottom here. Your main battery firing range drops from 23.5 to 12.5, taking 46.9% off. Your reload time goes up 33.4 versus what I have right now, 23.8, if you're like running around full health and whatnot. And the interval between individual shots is 1.5, and you get 2 salvos off. So rather than just 6, you get 12 off, essentially. Consumables, 30.8 second action time when we've built into the damage control party with our special upgrade here. Really good. Highly recommend it. Cooldown time, 80 seconds. Specialized repair teams, plus 778. Rerun India Delta, jump up to 934. Did I say 889 earlier? Why did I say? Oh, it's because I didn't have Charlie Kilo equipped. So yeah, really good stuff here with having these specialized repair teams. It's a cut above the rest, if you will, but it's not like this. It's not a Conqueror heal or something like that. It's less than that, but greater than the standard heal. So action time of 22 seconds, cooldown time 60 seconds, and we get 6 of them, and that's because you start off the battle with less hit points. So when you run Charlie Kilo, you start off with 31,140 hit points when the battle starts. Engine boost, we're running the unique upgrade, engine boost mod 1. It gives us almost 4 minutes of engine boost, 234 seconds. It has a 120-second cooldown time, and we get 3 of them. Really great stuff, and getting you up to 40 knots about. Then we only get fighter. We get 3 of these, and you're definitely going to be using this to help complement your AA, because your AA will struggle. Then if high explosives knocking out your AA guns, then yeah, not so hot. We can also bring down the cooldown time on all of these consumables with November Foxtrot, which I do. So then you see 76 seconds, 57 seconds, 114 seconds, 85.5 seconds. So this is really good. So then it means if you're alternating between your damage control party and specialized repair teams, the cooldown time between utilizing each of these becomes less and less. 30.8 second action time, 22 second action time, but to bring that down to 57 seconds in 76 seconds is really helpful if you're having to alternate between these two to sustain yourself in battle longer. Otherwise, we take India Yankee to reduce fire or improve fire extinguishing time by 20%. Same with Floods, negative 20%. We take Hotel Yankee, plus 50% ramming an enemy, negative 20%. When damage received when ramming an enemy. And then it becomes up to you. So since I have secondaries in the third slot here, I go ahead and I bump the range up. So we go from 8.8 to 9.2. Otherwise, maybe if you're playing on the weekend, there's a lot of planes, then you bump your A defense instead. So you can see you jump up to 4, 3, and 1764. But I usually just run with secondaries. Commander-wise, I'll try to make this fast and efficient. Halsey, you pick him up from the hit hard, hit fast, hit often campaign. If you don't know where campaigns are, go into your profile. No, I'm spacing, guys. It's not there. It is. It's on your left side. I was thinking of collections. Come over here, hit fast, hit hard, often campaign. Go through them all, get all the stars. He's in the final task. It will give you Halsey with 15 points. So Halsey, what makes him unique is not only his hand skills, but his talents. You have an implacable talent. Upon earning the Confederate achievements, your main battery reload time will drop by negative 20%. And that is really, really good. And then a negative 20% on the aircraft preparation time, which I think helps your airstrikes come off cooldown faster. And then if you manage to pick up a double strike, your concealment will drop by 10%. So you'll see 13.3 drop down to drop underneath 13 kilometers. I'm like, my brain is just around 12 kilometers detection range. So that's actually pretty spicy, if you will. Good stuff there. And then his two enhanced skills is a negative 60% on Gunfeeder and negative or plus 25% on Grease the Gears, rather than the standard 20% or standard negative 40% here. So this is the same commander build that I run on my Wisconsin. So it's nice to have another battleship that has similar synergy, in my opinion, in terms of being an American battleship, which works out really well in terms of building around her main battery. Going through this, you should take first Gunfeeder, helping your reload time be really fast. So the clip where I'm going to show on Monday probably is when I shot a Hoverosk, is I switched from my armor piercing to explosive, but I also had fewer hit points. So it was only like a 7-something second shell switch time, and then my burst fire was that much more successful in shooting a DD with high explosive versus armor piercing. So it's really worth taking Gunfeeder, especially if you have Halsey. Also, Grease the Gears, plus 25%. So that brings us to the 33.1 on 180 degree turn time. I should make mention of now before I forget, experimental ships you can move commanders off and on without being penalized or having to retrain the commander. So now if you want to try out different commander builds, like, have at it, if you will. It's free to move around your different commanders. 6-point build, I would go for Adrenaline Rush. This is just helping your main battery reload time be reduced, your airstrike armaments, your secondary battery, and a buff on your continuous AA damage. And then for a 10-point skill, I'd go for Fire Prevention, or 10-point build. Fire Prevention, risk of catching fire, negative 10%. Maximum number of fires, negative 1. So let me explain Fire Prevention, because some people don't understand what all it does, especially if you're a newer player. So without Fire Prevention, you can have 4 fires in your ship. Bow, stern, superstructure, superstructure. What Fire Prevention does, rather than having 2 fires ticking on your superstructure, only 1 fire can be lit on your superstructure, and it's usually kind of centralized. So that means you've built into your survivability, and you're taking less damage overall. And because Georgia has such a large superstructure, you really want Fire Prevention. So that's how it works. Beyond that, next I would probably go for either Concealment or Emergency Repair Expert. So we're talking about a 14-point commander build now. So it can be up to you which one you prefer to do first. Probably I would say do Emergency Repair Expert first. So this is the plus 10% on your action time of your damage control party and repair party. So that's why you're seeing an even longer action time on the DCP and the repair party because of this skill here in particularly. And we go from 5 specialized repair parties to 6 specialized repair parties. So pretty good stuff there. 18-point build, do Concealment Expert, drop yourself down to 10% range. Detectability, so 13.3 by sea, 9.2 by air. And then after 18 point, a 21-point commander, I have gone for improved repair party readiness. So what happens here is it activates every time your ship receives potential damage equal to 100% of the ship's base HP. Repair party consumable cooldown time, negative 0.8%. What this means is that your specialized repair team is going to come off cooldown even faster as you tank potential damage. So then you see this number, rather than being 57, it drops 56, 55, 54, 53, 52, 51. And it just depends on how much potential damage you've tanked, and you're able to get your heals off a lot faster, which works out really well since this is a bit more of this brawling mid-range battleship, right? Good stuff there. And then if you've reached 2 million potential damage, you'll activate another heal. So then you'll have 7 repair parties in total, right? And the reason why you get so many repair parties again, don't get too excited, is because you're starting off with only 31,140 hit points, and you'd have to burn through 2 heals just to get yourself back up to a full health state on the Oregon. So that's how that works. I really like this build. As I said, it's the same thing I run on Wisconsin, and I've quite enjoyed it. So it's nice to kind of feel like there's another battleship in the game where there's some synergy, at least for the time being, until they potentially remove Oregon. But I think the experimental ships are probably going to come to stay, whether they're better or worse experience on the game. Otherwise, if you're asking me what other things would I consider doing with the build here, I mean, it's up to you. The fact that, if I'm going to build into secondaries on Oregon, I just assume play Georgia, just because of the improved secondary battery accuracy. But then you can get a little bit of this lethal combination between going fully secondaries and building into your main battery. So that is something to consider. So like maybe you have a brawling commander lying around and you just want to throw him on Oregon and test him out, then do so. But that you're probably looking at taking long range secondary battery shells. And then I always take manual secondary battery aiming if I'm going to go for a full secondary build, which means you're dropping improved repair party readiness and you're dropping concealment expert to take those 2 skills. That's the natural trade-off there. So you have to kind of weigh those 2 against these 2 and see what you think. Otherwise, what are other possibilities? I wonder about Brisk. Maybe you dropped improved repair party readiness, you get 3 points, take 2, put it into Brisk, and then take your last point into building your reducing the cooldown time on your repair party and your damage control party. That works out really well with the build overall as well, right? When you go that route. But reality is you're probably going to be fighting and shooting more often than not, especially since your main battery reload time is 23.8. And then when you factor in Adrenaline Rush and the fight or flight skill, you're going to be firing your main battery guns a lot. And you're playing more around mid-range, so it just becomes like, do you get the worth out of Brisk or not? I think there's other battleships that get more use out of Brisk than your Oregon, but you could drop that and take those 2. That's another option. Another option would be drop improved repair party readiness and go for basics of survivability, which just reduces your module restoration time. It comes off repaired faster, and you put out fires and floods faster. Otherwise, I wholeheartedly recommend this build, especially if you have Halsey, because it works out really, really well, in my opinion. So that is it for today's video on Oregon. I hope you like going over it. So let me know how you've built your Oregon, if you have some differences compared to my build. To each their own. This is just my opinion on what I found working out quite well with Oregon so far. And that I really like playing Georgia, although I haven't played her much in the last year. But back in the day, there's a lot of Georgia, there was a lot of Massachusetts. So if you liked this video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I would appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.